This is serious. We do officially have yet another JavaScript toolchain backed by VC money. I don't think there could be anything better here. Announcing VoidZero Dev, a company building the next generation of unified toolchain for JavaScript, which is also kind of nutty considering Bun attempted to do the same thing and also got invested into. Imagine having an ecosystem in which is so borked that you could actually have multiple companies get funded just to build JavaScript. That's all we're doing here, okay? Bros, we're just building JavaScript. All right, so I'm curious how this thing is going to try to make money because this seems like this seems just unusual. I'm just trying to figure out why or how. A 4.6 million seed funding, that's a lot of funding, by the way. I assume what they say is they're not doing 4.6 million valuation. They're doing 4.6 million seed funding for VoidZero. Let's see what they're doing because I'm struggling to understand how this is going to make money. TLD, my guess is it's server-side ran. That's the only thing that makes sense is that, again, you just give away your environment to the internet. TLDR, I have founded VoidZero Incorporated, a company dedicated to building an open-source, high-performance, and unified development toolchain for the JavaScript ecosystem. We have raised $4.6 million in seed funding led by Excel. Interesting. Okay, so Excel, I assume because Excel is Vercel's kind of like VC side of things. It's not, I assume it's not technically Vercel's side, but I know the Vercel fellows are definitely in there. I'm not exactly sure who owns Excel. I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that Vercel, or at least people in Vercel, play a big role in it. So I assume that this is also a play for them to have faster building and better environment for them to make money, which makes sense. All right, I'm curious how do you make money? Let's see, 15 years ago when I started building apps with JavaScript, it was mostly a browser-based scripting language. Today, it has evolved into the most widely used language in the world, powering everything from web and mobile apps to game development and even IoT. Is this true, that JavaScript is the most widely used language in the world? Is that true? C would disagree. Yeah, C, C++. If you grouped those two together, I would assume that it's the other way around. That C/C++ is the most widely used. Top three for sure. Top three. There's even JavaScript in space. No, I understand that someone put it on. Some poor man put it onto a spacesuit. I get that you can do that. I'm just not convinced it's a great idea to do that. Over the years, many excellent tools have emerged to address the increasing scale and complexity of JavaScript applications. However, the ecosystem has always been fragmented. Every application relies on a myriad of third-party dependencies, and configuring them to work well together remains one of the most daunting tasks in the development cycle. As the author of one of the most widely used front-end frameworks, I've spent significant effort researching every layer of the JavaScript tooling stack. It is true. He's probably one of the most knowledgeable people ever about how to build a project with both ESM and CommonJS. I know. He could probably do that first try, assembling hundreds of dependencies and designing complex abstractions on top of them. The goal is always to give end users a cohesive, out-of-the-box development experience. These efforts eventually led to the creation of Vite in 2020. Fast forward 4 years, Vite is now the most popular build tools for web development with over 15 million downloads per week and vast ecosystem. I wonder if you could say this professionally. I really hate this metric. I think that this is just a god-awful metric, honestly. Downloads per week, I just think it means literally nothing, in my personal opinion. Also, I'm confused by this graph right now. I'm struggling to understand what this graph means. This must be year over year, but then there's a December in between. This must be 3 years. Oh, Vite weekly downloads since 2020. Okay, yeah, there you go. The graph was a little bit confusing. And so the thing that makes me confused about it, or the reason why I don't like that graph, is how many companies were created between the times of, let's just say every company after 2022 only used Vite. That's it. Everything else before that had some chance of using Vite between 2022 and 2020. And then before that, there was no chance of using it. How many companies are older than 4 years old and haven't updated their build system? That's a real thing. And so it's like how much is actually used in production is a much better example. Like how many companies are actually using it? What are the percentage of companies that are actually using build systems that involve Vite versus not? And so it's one of those things I really dislike is, NPM downloads. Yeah, this means that a lot of projects are using it, but how much of that project is just also the flood of people over the last 2 years coming in and building toy projects or building small projects versus actual commercial usage? I personally have never worked at a place that is a larger company that uses Vite other than on some small internal projects, which, by the way, is great. We used Rollup. We used a lot of Rollup. We couldn't migrate to Vite. Migration to Vite was, in fact, not free for us to use, even though it would have been great. All right. Yes, I know it's pronounced Vite. I'm going to call it Vite. We already talked about this. I use exonyms. Okay. So until the day that everybody in chat calls China by the proper name, I won't use endonyms. All right. All the people that are in here being like, yeah, okay, calm down there, buddy guy. Calm down there, buddy guy. You know, China, right? So until people start until every last person I know is just like, have you recently been to Chile? It's just like, you can Chile these nuts, okay? We've already talked about this like 19 times. East Taiwan, holy cow, this guy's about to start World War III with this kind of talk. All right, let's keep on going. We've already had this Vite comment way too many times. All right. The trust the company has placed in Vite made me reflect deeply on its future. Well, while Vite has greatly improved the high-level developer experience internally, it still relies on various dependencies with abstractions and workarounds to smooth over inconsistencies. Performance-wise, it remains bottlenecked by duplicated parsing and serialization costs across different tools, and it can't fully leverage native tooling like ESBuild due to feature constraints and limited customizability. Yeah, I also had problems with, even I've ran into even some of the weird problems using, like, say, Chart.js version 5 versus version 4 in an older project that has some constraints on it, and then all of a sudden you just blow up into this weird world where you can't get builds to work out. I had a lot of problems with some of the newer ESM libraries and their import syntax and just putting everything together. I spent entirely too much time working it out and finally getting it to work to realize that it doesn't work in a different environment and all that. It can be a real ass pain. We started to design a new bundler roll down tailored to Vite's needs. But as I ventured deeper into the layers beneath the bundler, I came to the realization that the challenges Vite is facing is a reflection of the JavaScript ecosystem at large: fragmentation, incompatibilities, and inefficiency. To fundamentally change this, a unified tool chain is needed. I generally agree with that. There has to be, this is why Go or Rust or OCaml or any modern language is fantastic, is that you don't go in there and you don't have to go nuts to build something. Now, any sufficiently large company, their build process is going to look complicated no matter what. But smaller companies, you don't even have to think about that. Go is just Go, and it just, you just need to point it to the binary that you want to start with, and it just works. Same thing with Rust, same thing with all this. It just works, right? Dylan Mulroy, hey, howdy. Hey, howdy. Dylan Mulroy would know all about it. Go or OCaml Dune sounds like it's a fantastic build system. I've never actually used much Dune, so I wouldn't know. Every time I tried to use it, I'm not really like a huge OCaml guy, even though I want to be. I think deep down I want to be. I'm just not quite there. But right now, this is what I'm reading. All right. This was the first autocomplete off the rip. There's 14 competing standards. How ridiculous. We need to develop one universal standard that covers everybody's use cases. Yeah. Situation. There's now 15 standard competing standards. This is going to be my big worry, is we're about to turn into this. Oh, was that Ginger Bill? Ginger Bill also is fantastic. Odin build dot. Yes, this is a truth right here, is also this kind of stuff, is that any language with a build system, any language that's been constructed from the ground up to contain its own build tools is going to just be a fundamentally better developer experience. And Odin will always just be that fundamentally better developer experience. And not only that, there's a new preview to make Dune more like Cargo. That's amazing. Dune already was pretty dang good. A lot of great progress going on. Yeah. Anyways, this is all fantastic. It just goes to show that when you own your own tool chain, a lot of better things happen. And this is the same. The same problem exists with C++, right? That's why there's so many different. There's the Make and Ninja side. There's also the Bazel side, and things are competing. And I know there's new ones coming in. Make files were never quite set as the standard, and so then you also have these just files now. You have these new test runner type things. It just keeps on growing into all these massive amounts of different standards. Is Cargo native to Rust? Yes, Rust owns and runs Cargo. Again, the hard part about what they're announcing here, which I'm not even, is this, I can't even highlight this text. What the heck? Oh, is that is that an image? Why can't I highlight the text? The thing I really want to kind of think about here is that how is VoidZero going to make money? And then on top of that, because these open source projects that are designed to make money have been catastrophic. Like, there's very few that are not catastrophic failures. Like, VC money plus open source generally has been nothing but catastrophic failures over the last decade. Now, I got to be right back because I did just drink a couple glasses of water followed by coffee, so I got to pee real bad. I did not pee on my cat today. Interesting. TJ and I were actually just talking about this idea of open source and money and all that. And TJ had a really interesting idea for licensing around it, which I thought could make this work out potentially better. But at the same time, I just struggle to see any company wanting to give away yet another part of their stack to a VC-funded open source tool with just the amount of kind of rug pulls that have happened over the last so much time. I'm having a hard time understanding that. Me, you, everyone around knows about the JS problem. But if you think about it, very optimistically, what is your solution to all these stupid situations? Can we bring the ecosystem into uniformity? I don't think you can bring the ecosystem into uniformity, but I think that you can bring the ecosystem into a trajectory. I think Vite did a pretty good job bringing people into the same direction. I think that was really good. But I'm having a really hard time believing that it doesn't. Why do people not like closed source software? At least you can actually sell that and sell support. Open source, people expect everything must be free, regardless of licensing. Yes. So again, for those that don't know, this is Ginger Bill. He created Odin Lang. Odin Lang is used massively in the VFX world and in the game programming world and is quite successful. I don't understand this type of stuff, and I have yet to really get why people constantly... You inherently have a problem because open source is not necessarily the best way to make money. It's just not a great way to make money. Closed source good software has always been a very great way to make money as far as software goes, right? Vite brought about good idea rather than forcing an approach. Let the good ideas win and the rest typically automatic. Yeah, but you still have legacy, right? A legacy will exist forever. Remember, there are still websites that have engineers actively working on it that are still like PHP 4 something, okay? And PHP 4 was during my time and even made irrelevant during my time doing PHP. That was a decade plus ago. Right? JC legacy is the worst. A PHP legacy is pretty dang bad, okay? I'm just letting you know. For some reason on the internet, people hate to hear that other people like to work for money. Damn, dude, this is just absolutely awful. I don't think people hate all closed source, but things like proprietary drivers for GPUs is just terrible. I'd have to think more about that. I don't understand why proprietary drivers for GPUs are terrible. I'd have to understand that. I don't quite understand why that's necessarily bad. Yeah, I'll have to think about that at another time because I'm just trying to like run that in my head in the sense that if you produce a GPU, why can't you also produce the driver for it? And why does that driver not have to be proprietary? I'm not sure. I know that there's definitely like a bunch of NVIDIA FU and stuff like that. And there's probably some counterintuitive things from operating systems versus GPU drivers. And there's probably a lot of battle that goes on. Not arguing that. I just have to understand why it's purely bad. Imagine a toolchain that is unified using the same AST, resolver, and module interop for all tasks, parsing, transforming, linting, formatting, bundling, minification, and testing. This would actually be great. For those that don't understand the problem there, is that you have TypeScript, and TypeScript has its own parsing. Then you have another library like a linter or a prettier that comes in and they re-parse it over and over and over again. But you could imagine that a single pass-through could be very, very nice to be able to just have a singular AST that goes in and just does everything for you. I understand why that would be fantastic, and that would obviously greatly improve the runtime. High performance, written in a compiled to native language designed from the ground up for speed with maximum parallelization and low overhead JS plugin support. The performance budget unlocks more ambitious features that improve not only developer experience but end user experience as well. Okay, interesting. Composable. Each component of the toolchain is independently consumable, offering building blocks for advanced customization. But it is funny. Sometimes you get into this weird problem, though, where not all the toolchain can be independently consumable because one thing will get formatted one way by TypeScript, and then something else will get formatted differently by ESLint, and the other one will get formatted differently by Prettier. And so there's only one thing that can win. Anyways, such a toolchain will not only enhance Vite, but also drive significant improvements throughout the JavaScript ecosystem. This ambitious vision and achieving it requires full-time dedicated teams, something that wasn't possible under independent sustainability model of the past projects. This is why VoidZero was founded. All right. I'm excited to announce that we've raised $4.6 million in seed funding to pursue this vision. Our seed round was led by Excel, with participation from Amplify Partners, Preston Werner Ventures, BGZ, Eric Simmons, Paul Copplestone, Supabase, David Kramer, Century. Let's go, David. Matt Billman and Christian Bach, Netlify, Defang Guo, Strikingly, Sebastian Chopin, Johannes Schickling, and Zeno Racha. All right, let's go. Progress so far. Over the past year, we've built a team with deep expertise in JavaScript tooling, including creators and core contributors to widely adopted open source projects like Vite, Vitest, OXC. I assume that stands for like Oxidize or something like that, and former core contributors of RSPack. We've been hard at work developing the foundational elements of our envisioned toolchain. In addition to ongoing improvements to Vite, we also delivered the fastest, most spec-compliant JavaScript parser, the fastest Node.js compatible resolver, the fastest TypeScript JSX transformer, the fastest linter, the most feature-complete test runner, the fastest bundler. Let's go. While it's still early days and open source projects are already being used by some of the world's leading engineering teams, including OpenAI, ChatGPT Web Client. That's because it's White Remix. So due to it being Remix, you have that. Web, Apple, Microsoft, Visa, Shopify, Cloudflare, Atlassian, Reddit, Hugging Face, Linear, and many more. All right, I wonder if they're going to talk about how are they planning, or let me say it this way, what did these people invest in? My assumption is they did not invest into making the next set of projects nicer. But I will say that obviously there's a lot of JavaScript-based projects in here. So maybe, I can't imagine that's the goal though, right? What did they invest into? Name 3 projects that ended poorly with VC funding. Have you heard of Terraform? Have you heard of Redis? There's 2 of the largest and easiest projects that affected effectively everybody. Elasticsearch is another great, fantastic one. Not to mention just the myriad of small projects that are involved. Docker. Docker on the way, if you remember Docker Hub. Another just a very interesting one, name 3 VC projects that ended, 3 open source VC projects that ended poorly. Let's just do another one. Next.js, I think, is really struggling in the sense that when you use Next.js, you're almost exclusively needing to use Vercel. Now, OpenNext has done a very good job. Dax has been tweeting about it. There's been some back and forth on Twitter about this. And so I'm not 100% convinced that a lot of these open source, highly invested companies in open source works well. I think there's a lot of competing problems. Bun, we don't know Bun. Bun is creating Oven, right? So Bun may just have its own effectively Vercel hosting service for projects that run Bun. And is that bad? Well, people already want to host stuff. So is it really bad? I don't think so. I never really understood this. It's easy to throw Next into a Docker container. Somewhat. That's not fully it. That's what OpenNext is. OpenNext allows you to effectively host it anywhere, and they have to do an insane amount of stuff on the back where you don't see, especially with routing and stuff. You can't just throw it in a container, right? Because there's the entire routing and stuff that goes on with all of this. It's not 100% just go. I love that software gives us Bun is creating Oven as a sentence, yes. And so Bun could be nice. Bun could be something that maybe breaks the mold. I'm just not sure if it can break the mold that easily. I'm curious about this. In what way is Next? You can look at all the back and forth with OpenNext, right? OpenNext and Vercel have a lot of talks about this entire thing, and they have a complete breakdown about all of it. It's very, very interesting. Yes, but the server has a ton of config issues. Yes, there's a lot more that goes on, and so you can just look at it. Dax can give you a complete breakdown. In fact, I could get Dax on here, and he could give you all the difficulties of attempting to run Next.js as its own as its own independently hosted item, or what makes it difficult. All right, so let's see what's next. Our primary goal for the coming months is to stabilize roll down and to make it unified bundler for Vite in both development and production. We have already made great progress and are aiming for an alpha release of roll down powered Vite later this year. In 2025, we'll continue to complete the other planned features of I'm just going to call it Oxidize. I'm not really sure what to call this thing, OXC. Minification, formatting, and gradually migrate the entire Vite ecosystem to be powered by Roll Down and Ox. We will work closely with the ecosystem partners and stakeholders to ensure smooth transition for end users. Everything we've open sourced will remain open source. On top of our open source project, we'll offer an end-to-end JavaScript tooling solution specifically designed to meet the scale and security requirements of enterprise environments. Okay, so this is the thing that these people invested into right here. These people right here invested into this sentence right here, is my assumption. Now, I bet you there's probably some arguments for people like Netlify or Vercel as to why they would want just a faster, more efficient build system as they run a ton of projects. So there's probably something there that probably reasonably makes sense that they also would like to invest into. But my main assumption is this right here. How do you turn that into not just a savings at your company, but something that makes tens or hundreds of millions of dollars? This, right? I just don't know what the pitch is. To me, it just sounds like, again, you're going to tie yourself to these open source platforms. You're going to be exceptionally vendor locked in. I'm just sorry if I'm a little bit jaded. I just feel like I've been jaded by the JavaScript ecosystem. Maybe it's completely unfair, and you know, there could be a lot of really great things here. I've just felt generally jaded, and I'd love to understand more about this because there's just been so much of this lately. I feel like developers are a group of people who make typically above the median income and have been the target of every last recent like subscription / trying to buy more of your money. Because you know what? It doesn't cost a lot to have OpenAI comparatively to an average developer or even the median developer salary, even worldwide. And so it's like a constant desire to try to get $40 a month, $50 a month, X amount a month out of you. We need to tell you that you can't host your own servers. It's dangerous to host your own servers. Remember that one time that Cloudflare just got 1 billion requests per second or 1 billion packets per second? That's going to happen to you too. Okay, buddy? And so like I feel like there's just this whole subscription hell / the kind of like fright fest driving towards developers. If you don't use all the AIs, if you're not completely proficient with every last AI, you're going to be left behind. If you're running your own server, you're going to be completely left behind. If you're not doing this, and so I just feel like it's just been this constant pull or attack on devs. And so that's why I'm a little bit jaded. Sorry if I'm a little bit jaded, but I'd love to see. I hope this actually works out and it has nothing to do with what I think it is. And it's actually fantastic and everybody's very, very happy about it. And then I'll be very, very happy about it. And I can point to this as a project that did it right. I don't even know what right looks like, to tell you the honest truth. Capitalism equals enshittification. This is demonstrably both true and not true at the exact same times. The opposite side of this is just not that great either. I would say that life grows towards enshittification, whether you like it or not. The name is I'm not going to get baited into a communism discussion, okay, buddy? Okay? You're always trying to do this. You're always trying to get me into one of these things where I get triggered. I'm not going to get triggered.